that seemed formerly unavailable to do on these other blockchains like Ethereum because of the cost of it
Yep.
suddenly became available. And so for those of us who were already looking at use cases within blockchain technology, which aligned itself very well with legacy systems, again, such as music distribution and copyrights. Um, but I think it's kind of like what's the old adage in Taoism? They say after you become enlightened, you go chop wood and carry water, right? So it's
Yeah.
it's like blockchain is a tool, and it's just there to be able to make more efficient things happen in what should be fairly normal things already. Like you're saying, you should be able to have a localized economy, what they called in former years script, right? Local script. I think you guys had one in Ithaca, and just change and just transmute it to a blockchain. It really has nothing to do other than more efficient technologies.
And I think that you also like bring up a really good point that is probably those conversations that nobody wants to have, which is to begin to identify, let's call it the top 5 chains that are going to be worth building on right now, right? And I know that sounds horrible, and Ethereum is obviously going to stay there. They're going to get approved. You're not going to. Ethereum's going to be there, right? BSV is going to be there. Now, I think Cardano is going to be there. That kind of piece. And then then you start looking at things like a Monero that allows for true anonymity. I think that that's something that a lot of people are going to want. And I think that we need to start having those real conversations that aren't necessarily we're here to promote and sell this blockchain, although some people that's going to be their job and we should fully respect that. And at the same time go, well, and then there's this one other one over here. Like for instance, like IOTA. I have no idea what IOTA does, but I try to read about what these guys what they're doing, and people think it's just incredible. And I'm like, okay, but what is it doing that we don't already have done elsewhere, and why? Like seriously, help to understand that. But again, I just went there because as you were talking about the idea, like you can do microtransactions, you can keep it very affordable and grow from. I think that those are really really important conversations to have beyond just we're going to blockchain and it's this one.
Yeah.
Right? It's like we're going to blockchain and it's this one because.
Right. Understanding the value on each one and why people choose certain ones over another is, there's definitely a lot of value in there. Like Greg, you and I were talking about the size of the transaction, the cost of the transaction. And I was sharing that with somebody today, and when I started sharing that piqued his interest because one of the things that he'd been looking at is the fact that he had not dug into any blockchain solutions because of the cost of the transactions.
Yeah. I mean, depending on the use case, it could be from a minimal cost, where again you compare Ethereum per transaction cost to a BSV per transaction cost and be able to accomplish the same action. You're talking about 1/100 of a penny versus $50.
Yeah.
And how is that even tenable? How is that even comparable?
Yep.
Other than the only way that it compares is a numbers game. So if I have, let's say, and this is only it's got to be short-lived, but if I have like a wonderful product and I know it costs me $100 to get into the door of the conference, or through maybe it costs me all these tolls to get into New York City, and I got to pay for all these tolls and whatnot. So I finally get in there, and the cost of living is expensive, but there's so many people there, right? And there's so much money there. Excuse me. So people on Ethereum are going there and selling art. It costs them $200 to mint the damn thing. It doesn't live on chain, and then after they sell it, most guys, they hear about these $30,000 or $30 million sales, but most guys are getting $300, $200, $300 if they do sell. And so their cost to mint it was $200, and they might have made $50 after it was all said and done. but they go there because everyone else they feel like is there, right? Whereas we could mint BSV on-chain assets for a quarter, you know.
Yep. Yep.
So it's but it's okay. So that's a use case where someone who wants $1 million piece of art doesn't care about the $200 cost of the transaction
No,
or the 80.
exactly.
That he cares about. But a gaming company like not Pure Games, Crypto Fights, right? They were attempting to build on Ethereum, and they couldn't do it. It couldn't happen. So they had to come somewhere where it actually allowed them to be able to store these transactions on chain and not cost them a whole bunch of money for their players.
Right.
So real business use case, industrial and enterprise level, massive transaction use case, you're going to find, in my opinion, humbly speaking about it, BSV is going to be a massive answer for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
anything like Chuck, it doesn't make a difference which blockchain, but it does.
No,
I
it
mean,
does.
really
No,
does.
it definitely does. Right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. What language are you gonna are you gonna program something in? Are you what databases are gonna? It all matters, right? It ultimately all matters, and I think it's important that we recognize that it all matters, and start having the conversation that it matters from a business case and a development case. Not simply because the latest rage is X, right?
Yeah.
I think that there are, right, as I say, I think right now there is probably dozens and dozens of real quality oriented blockchains being developed right now. Most of them we don't know about, we haven't heard about, and okay, fine. In the next few years, the next 2 to 5 years, there's going to be the top 5, the top 10, and there's going to be interoperability between those top 5 and those top
Absolutely.
10 because, a particular need or feature or function is going to be better served. Maybe the anonymity. You want anonymity? We'll send it over Monero. We'll store all of your protected assets there, but what you want simply for transactional purposes over here, costs go down X, everything else. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well said. Well said. And I've heard lots of arguments from people saying, well, I'll use BTC for my large transactions, because it's a more secure network or XYZ. And that might be they might have some point, although I think that despite the fact that we saw some attacks on BSV in the past week, I think that in order to sustain an actual attack on a blockchain, it's so almost near impossible to, besides the fact that you could pretty much only double spend your own coins. And the end of the day, to sustain a reorganization costs so much money that I think.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Getting to the point of, I don't know, what is there a term yet what is the term? Let's say, I know it's probably 51% that makes it challenging to overcome consensus. I don't know what that point is called. Is there a?
They call it 1% attack.
Okay, so we'll just call it getting to 51%. But what I'm looking for is, say, 51% of 10. That's going to be kind of easy. 51% of 10,000 is not, right? So like the actual distribution. So there's probably a point that you have to look at saying how many nodes are out there that could be compromised, I guess.
Well, let's actually restate that. And I'm not maybe the technical guy to really speak deeply on this, but as an example, Bitcoin Core, their claim is that they want everybody to run a full node, and they want everybody to be able to process the blocks, even with the Raspberry Pi and all this stuff. But the reality is that the only ones that make the difference are those who produce blocks, right? So any kind of listening node, anyone who does not produce blocks has no effect whatsoever on the actual state of the blockchain. And from what I understand, BTC, there's actually only a few pools that are actually, you know, what I mean, those who are mining Bitcoin, right? It actually is a very select few amount of mining pools that are mining this blockchain, whether it be BSV or BTC.
That was my. I think I heard that same thing too. It's not a substantial number, um, and a substantial percentage was actually over in China. And when they just got kicked out, I think we're probably going to start seeing maybe more distribution and smaller pools, which I think is more healthy. Um, and that's
Yeah,
kind of some of the
and
stuff that I think Cardano's doing pretty well by design. Not that I understand it, but they basically sort of govern down your ability to earn as you grow to a certain size, right? That's interesting.
Okay.
I mean, you're still going to probably end up rolling up new. You could conceivably just keep rolling up new pools, but it's
interesting.
stuff.
Well, and I mean, there's certainly arguments against staking, like Ethereum. I think there was an argument made that obviously staking is in some ways a power down, right? So it's the more you have stake, the more money you have, the more power you're going to have. And plus, you could be one person that has 10 different staking identities, right? And so really, it's actually one massive conspiracy, so to speak. One person, one entity who actually has 20-30% of the staking
Exactly.
power,
Yeah, and
and
we
you
would
don't even
never
know.
know, right? And that's sort of the point, is that we'd never know. If you want to run up that many identities and do it, and again, I think that that's sort of somewhere in that is how that whole Justin Sun thing happened, Tron and Steam or whatever. Hey, so I don't know if you heard, and I'd be curious to get your thoughts on this. I thought that this was sort of interesting. So Charles Hoskins from Cardano founder, is now
Yeah.
going to be joining the board of Ethereum Classic. I was like, that's interesting.
Huh? Kind of fun.
Yeah, right? I was like, and in many ways, to me, that is sort of the collaborative nature that we want to see. Right? Now he was also, Charles was also one of the original, he was there
Exactly.
early on in Ethereum. So I could see him maybe having some nostalgia or whatever toward Ethereum Classic. But I thought that was interesting. I was like, all right, that's fun.
Well, and I don't know the history of it, but maybe he actually was on the side of Ethereum Classic rather than Ethereum when they had what happened. It reorganized the blockchain to give back the coins.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not. I don't know.
So there was there was something happened, and I feel ignorant for not knowing the exact. But something back in the early days, maybe 2015, I can't remember. Whatever, maybe it was later. But Ethereum, there was a hack of some sort, and I think the decision was: do we allow all these coins to be kept or whatever, or do we reorganize and turn back the clock on the blockchain essentially? And I think Classic remained the way it was, and Ethereum, the way we know it today, was the one that reorganized, I believe.
Okay.
Now we're on TV, so hopefully I don't sound too ignorant.
Now that's interesting stuff, though.
Yeah.
That's really. I'm gonna
Very
step
interesting.
away for a second.
Oh, okay.
Go get
More water. Yeah.
So this
Well,
one, see
what's
the light
deeply
was-
interesting is the history of Bitcoin itself, and the fact that again, it had everything that was ever needed for the smart contracts and everything.
Yeah.
So Ethereum never needed to be created.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's gonna
that's
be
good.
interesting finding out who the like Chuck said, the top 10 or the top 3. Like you have the big 3 in the Verizon, AT&T, the mobile provider network, and you used to have the big bells that would littered all over the state or all over the country rather, and so there's going to be some that are going to kind of elevate themselves, and a lot of it's going to come down to security and maintainability and cost and size of transactions. Being able to store data, like you and I were talking about earlier, being able to store data on chain is, we got to get to that point.
Yeah, well, and it's really actually interesting because I've had conversations with high-level guys in BSV who say, don't think of BSV as a data storage mechanism. Don't just think, and they really were pushing me to think of it as a data management system.
Yeah.
Kind of like
Yeah.
Udicci is really dealing with, the way you guys are dealing with it. They really spoke strongly about this idea of we should be using it to store hashes of off-chain data, and in such a way that, as we talked about before, Tim, it's provable, right? So you could have hashes of hashes, you could have a chain of hashes, you could have different ways to ensure that the data off-chain is time-stamped and provably.
Yep.
You know what's in?
Now,
So Tim and I we met yesterday, and as it's taken a while for me to really begin to wrap my head around what blockchain is, and ultimately, once you get it, it's not that hard. And you start to go like, that's interesting. Now, one of the questions that I've run across a number of times is the concept of like what can be or will be accomplished through like a token, this token environment. And it is a very different way of thinking. But I'm going to tell you, like, I'm starting to have so much fun thinking about these things. Like you're saying, it's like, okay, well, and Tim is doing things like, well, if we hash this and we do, well, then Tim, we were looking at like using bit masks and whatnot just to kind of allow us to return the values from the data fields that we want. Or like, okay, so now we're down to 1 bit being able to do these things. It becomes a whole different way of thinking, which I find in my mind, I go back and I start laughing because it's almost what I was doing back in the Air Force when we were working on mainframes, because everything had to be as minimal as possible, right? It's like you didn't want traffic. You had to like make this super efficient return of information, and it's almost like we're back to that. And as soon as I start thinking about a token being, I've gone to calling a token smart data objects, and once I started thinking about them as smart data objects, and that there is no centralization, man, this is gonna be fun. The design of systems is gonna be fun, flat out fun.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Token and token is just really, it's a, like you said, it's a just like we say in the real world, hey, it's just a token of my affection, right? It's just an expression, just a simple expression, and it's time stamped, and it's able to be manipulated, the data, the properties that are inside of it. So if you got that token, it's no different than you having your old Blockbuster card, right? If you want to use it that way, you could use, like you said, Chuck, you could use a token in many different ways. But inside it could tell what the expiration date is. It could tell how much, do you have a current subscription? And when you arrive on the website, all those things can be read by the platform.
So we were thinking a little bit, actually, and this will be one of those things we'll share in person as opposed to putting out there. But we have a different way of looking at tokens. That, let's say that like the tokens themselves would have a, how do I want to say this? Well, let's just use a simple answer. You create a token for a region, right? And then any token ever created on the blockchain that falls within that region, you go out and you create basically resource management tokens. They're always looking for either other types or similarities, and the opportunity, I don't know, the abilities beyond that are just phenomenal. We had fun thinking about it because it's totally different in the ways that you would normally think. There's some fun stuff. There's some fun stuff. All right, so
Thank you.
I'm not hearing anything from Guy Cloud. He said he wasn't going to jump on, but he did say he had to hit dinner. And then these other guys are at 9, so we'll kind of do it that way.
Well, hey, gentlemen, I'm going to have to jump off for a little bit. I'm going to see if I could stay. Is it possible for me to continue to watch it?
Yeah, you can watch it either on Facebook or on YouTube. If you go to YouTube, it's on Udicci.TV, Udicci.TV.
Okay, perfect.
We have a channel.
And I might join back in. I just gotta take care of a few errands.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect.
All right,
Thanks
gentlemen.
for calling in, man.
Yeah, appreciate your time, man.
Always, what a pleasure.
Awesome.
All right, talk later.
See ya.
All right, and
Peace.
we'll go to a break.
Sure, we can go to a break. Look at that.
I like this.
This is sweet. This actually, this is working pretty well.
Yeah.
I'm feeling pretty good about this. I was thinking, I'm like, I got to put this over here because I was constantly watching him over on the side. So if I put it this way, it looks more like I'm watching, kind of centered on there. So
Yeah, it would be something to, right. We kind of want to have the primary camera because even if you switch to that one, I'm talking to that one. At least it'd be okay. Yeah, man, this is a fun setup.
This is cool. But the other
Oh wait, what do you have going out to stream right now? You've got audio.
Yeah, HyperX.
Okay, so you didn't go to break yet.
No, not yet.
Okay.
So you want to go to break? We could probably go to break.
Yeah, let's go to break.
Okay, ready? What? Here we go. So we're gonna go to break, and we're still on, but we're on a partial mute.
Hold on.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if we were to do this and make it even bigger, that money would get used to feed people for thousands of years to come, hundreds of thousands.
That's kind of the shit I'm down to do, man.
Can you?
Because I showed you the videos about the food forest.
Yeah. Now, well, now you got to get. Okay. Why? Okay. Go. Okay. So what is that? That's in the thing now. No. Like. Okay. So that's streaming.
Maybe ex-military, maybe.
Chuck and Tim.
Man, okay, so it's going great, and I enjoying tuning in just when we tuned in, and we're having just a little bit of fun tonight with our OBS studio. So what you guys see is what's currently being streamed out through our live stream.
Oh,
We're on
shit.
a podcast now,
Yeah,
Mr.
hold on.
Controlled-
We're gonna change this just for a second to show like. So this is now like we've got our little green screen thing happening tonight. So we're having all sorts of fun.
Nice.
But I love where I just tuned in because the last guest that we were just talking with, we were starting to talk about how they're beginning to use the DeFi pools to create liquidity for these type of projects. So if you're whoever was just speaking there has access to people who have money, that's probably the easiest place to start. Right on the blockchain, start issuing some tokens that people can put their currencies to, regardless of the blockchain they're associated with.
Yeah,
And
there's
you-
totally private investors are totally down for that shit. Just in terms of locating like the people that need the investment and actually getting the investors, and actually coming up with a good enough business plan to convince the investors.
Yeah, that's what we're at right now. You made a good point that if we had a solid business plan, especially with the plan that we're talking about, we would definitely be able to get some of those investors.
So,
Yeah, they love to give their money if you just got like like a business plan to outline how they're going to get their return on investments.
Yeah.
And, like what type of like duration of time it requires. Like is it like a 2 to 3 year project or is it like a 10-year project?
So one of the things about, I think, when you're building the blockchain projects, you have to kind of take a step back, and we have to start to teach the investors that those are the wrong questions, because we're creating economies and we're creating mutual value tokens. So we're actually creating currencies that don't have a time frame return. They have a liquidity and appreciation that goes with them. So it's a different kind of investment that we're looking for when we're talking about these kind of projects. But right there, right, like we could start educating the investors who are still thinking in terms of I want my 2, 3, and 4, 5 year pro formas. Like, no, that's out the door. You're going to be part of, you're going to be part of creating liquidity for projects which make a difference, and you can come in and out of those pools as you want.
Well, see, part of permaculture, I remember when I took my course in 2012, he was talking about converting economic capital to natural capital.
That's right.
Because as the economic capital loses value, the natural capital will keep growing and sustaining, and that's where it's really at. So we need to sort of play the Robin Hood act right now and get as much of the economic converted to natural as possible before it's too late.
And
So what do
truly,
you
real
think these
estate
billions-
is your inflation proof, right? I mean, we can always speak to precious metals and bitcoins, and we're starting to see that, but truly, real estate is always your inflation proof.
That's kind of
investment.
like the thing that I'm kind of looking into right now, the real estate aspect of that, because that seems like the only way to like just make large sums of money like make sense.
And see,
Now,
as far
Jake,
as the
though,
future,
beyond just the land, right, and that obviously the acquisition fees for the land and whatnot, what type of equipment do you need? Are you looking for like tractors or these garden tractors?
Okay, so you're
Like,
talking
what
about
kind of?
putting like land on. Is that kind of like working in the terms of like where you're using the land as the collateral for backing this currency or what?
No, I was talking about backing the currency using silver so that it holds its value as.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So as far as on the land, what type of equipment we would need, we're talking about starting off pretty simple because part of permaculture is starting small and expanding. So we want to start with either some tiny homes or some yurts. We were talking about even converting a motorhome or a trailer into a pirate ship. So
I
that
was
we
actually
can
looking
bring
at the
Awesome.
yurts. I was actually
yeah,
looking at yurts. They're the
yurts are
best.
pretty awesome. If you guys haven't seen yurts, they're these basically round canvas buildings that are pretty nice wood.
Motherfucking Genghis Khan used that shit to conquer all over in different climates and stuff, and that's pretty well insulated for the keeping temperature, man. Like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, they had a series of yurts over at Quail Springs. They had cob houses, yurts, straw bale homes. So depending on the resources that we're able to acquire, either build a tiny home or a yurt. But I'm putting it in an area that's about 3 hours, or we're looking about 3.5 hours away from where I'm living
What
right
about
now.
well, those are more like mobile. I would see yurts as a more
What, like
mobile
yurts?
option.
Yurts?
Yeah, they're the more mobile option. But if you want to talk about like container homes, I think that was like converting.
Container. Great idea. Converting container homes. We were actually talking about converting containers as well.
Yeah,
Any earth ships using recycled materials such as
because
tires and
one
bottles.
of the projects I worked on, like one of the bros, we actually did repurpose containers to actually do hydroponics.
Yeah,
So let me.
I've seen some amazing container homes, so that's definitely
Yeah,
an option.
and with the current like tech, the LED lights that we're using, you're actually getting pretty good output from the containers. So
Yeah.
So let me ask you. When it comes to the currency that you want to make, I know you want to back that through um, silver.
Yeah.
But is there any reason that you wouldn't look to just create individual tokens for whatever projects you're taking on? So you take the first one that you're, stepping into. Why not kind of create a contract that allows people to buy into that one, and then maybe you could pay off that whoever's buying into this contract through your and I'm sorry, you have to. What did you call your coin again?
A doubloon. We were gonna call it a doubloon.
A doubloon. So, like, you create a
Pirates.
contract that basically goes out and gets you get this contract funded, and then it does get treated as almost a debt against the land, but it would be paid back in the doubloon, right? And you could set it up that it's like, hey, it's it is an investment style that if it all fails, it all fails. But you could almost set this up then if, and I'm sorry, I can't see, is it Doc that's got the access to the
Doc.
investors?
oh, this is the one he said was coming in.
Stock Woo.
So do you have any idea, like, I know that
Okay, as
you
far
have
as-
specific land you've looked at.
As far as a lot of these tokens right here that have been coming out lately, a lot of them basically operate like the initial holders are the ones holding the bag, and then the new people buying in are the ones funding it, and that's how they're making money. The money has to come from somewhere. And it's literally just coming from the new investors buying into it. So rather than basing it on fiat currency and having it be, part of that whole system, I wanted to tie it to a precious metal, which is going to hold its value a little bit better. So it's actually backed by something tangible. Because right now, like I was saying, a lot of these tokens, there's no value in a lot of them, and the only reason they're actually increasing in value is because new investors are buying. And that's the only reason a lot of them are holding their price. It's a lot of them are just basically little mini Ponzi schemes that are now reflecting money back into these either liquidity pools or back into marketing, or the charity tokens that came out, like Lifeline token and Save the Kids. Save the Kids was a big one that was being backed by the Phase team. Phase K from Phase got kicked off of his. Hey Alan,
Yes.
could you mute that so you guys could talk, because it's kind of distracting me.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, you're all good, bro. Yeah, so check it out. There was a token that just came out. It was a called Save the Kids, and it was a scam token. The original bag holders ended up selling it on the new investors. And the way that they were marketing it is every time you make a transaction, a certain percentage, just like Safe Moon, is handed out, reflected among the holders, and then a certain percentage is given to a charity, right? It's put into a charity wallet. Well, they got all this money from the investors and then instantly sold their bags. They had this anti-whale mechanism where you could only sell a certain amount in 24 hours. Well, right before the token dropped, they had the contract changed so they could sell it every 5 minutes instead. So it was being pushed by the Phase team, Phase K, and all these others. And there's a good video, CoffeeZilla. He exposed the scam. But a lot of these smaller tokens that are doing this redistribution mechanism are nothing more than Ponzi schemes, and they don't really have value to them other than more people buying them.
Yeah, not
So-
creating any lasting value. That doesn't help
Exactly.
anything with inflation.
So one thing I was looking at
Doing the
was
same
tax.
thing the U.S. dollar is doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all of these tokens that are based on the US dollar, well, let's say my token has a value of $2. Well, let's say that $2 completely loses its value. So does my token. Whereas, let's say the US dollar loses value as compared to silver, and now silver increases value. Well, my token's going to be tied to the price of silver or precious metal or whatever arbitrary thing we decide at that time. But the fact is it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be hit by the same forces that fiat currency is.
Okay, so you're
fiat is
backing
going-
yours on silver, basically.
I want to back it by silver, and one of the reasons I was looking into this crypto called PaxG. And PaxG is a crypto that's backed by gold. They actually have gold reserves for every token they issue. And if you have a certain amount of PaxG, you can return it to them and they'll give you physical gold. So rather than how Tether isn't backed by shit, right? They have Tether is a stable coin, but if you really look into Tether's reserves, it's not backed by anything. PaxG is actually backed by physical gold and tethered to the price of gold. So it's just like investing in fractional gold without having to pay the spot fee. So I'm suggesting we do the same exact thing that they're doing, but with a private. So it's basically combining PaxG with Monero and Pirate Chain with a sort of an invite only within the permaculture ecosystem type of atmosphere, so that it's tied to something that has physical value and doesn't lose its value along with fiat currency.
Hey Jake, if you run across throughout the stories throughout the years, like anybody who actually allows you, so let's say I wanted to stake my silver to your project, right? Now that would be kind of an interesting thing, taking an actual my silver and saying, fine, maybe I have to turn it up someplace, maybe I have to put it in an escrow account, maybe it gets put in a safe box, safe holding. But have you run across anybody who's doing that? So that way you don't actually necessarily have to go out and buy the silver, but you can actually just have the silver staked.
That was a thought in my head too, because often when you
That
buy from
water
a metals
melon.
exchange, they'll give you the option to just keep your metal in their vault, so
Right.
that you don't have to pay the fees and this and that. So that's one thing I was thinking. Imagine if the only tokens that are minted by actually staking physical silver.
Right. And I meant like
So-
if you found some of those exchanges, that would be interesting to see if there would be a means of partnering with those people and effectively giving people a return. I mean, you'd basically be doing a yield farm on
Physical
silver
silver.
that's being held in an exchange.
That would be a damn good idea, and that would be the reserves of our token as well. So when we
Right.
issue it, yeah.
And it would just be right. It would just be under contract, and all you have to do. I mean, they're going to be able to keep their asset. That's interesting.
Yeah, that would be an interesting concept. It would definitely take some work of a mastermind group to come up with the actual details of it.
We're
Right
here.
now-
We're all here right now. We got it.
right now what we're on is basically we decided step one is just getting the following as big as we can possibly get it, and step two is fundraising, because after we get the following going, we're going to transition to a nonprofit, and then we're going to get fundraising up for the land. We've already had a bunch of people interested. Someone was like, when you get this going, we have $10,000 right now. Well, imagine you were able to offer a spot on the land in the community. If someone was able to offer a certain amount of money up front, they're going to have a guaranteed spot um, if they so wish. On
So
Kickstarter, people can get a certain reward for uh, donating a certain amount of money. You donate $250, you get this sticker pack or something like that. Well, a similar concept, but we want to use the permaculture community as the key. So, if people give a certain amount, let's say they give $500 donation, that would be good for a $1,500 course in the future. People put up this money up front, then they could be part of the community because that will invest into it. And we're all putting our money in too, so I just need to figure out the legalities of all of this.
So one of the things we were just talking about before we jumped over here is the idea of how do we create, how do we help collaborative communities, the project management thereof, the implementation, like how do we actually help do all of this stuff? Like it's very interesting. In the decentralized world, you have a lot of people who are very excited about a bunch of different projects. And one of the things we all have to do, obviously, is reach more people so that we can kind of reach more fundraising. And a big part of our uphill battle right now is still just teaching people about blockchain, right? It's just that simple, is like the blockchain aspect of it, and then the economic aspect of it. Forget why we have anonymity on Monero and big blocks on BSV, right? We don't even have to go down those paths yet to the world. So we were kind of talking about how do we pull this heart of collaboration together to create mutual value together, and what do we mean by that? And right now I'm going to say, like, one of the first things we're going to start doing is we call it Planet, where our background is technology. So we're going to, and I was a small business lender. I actually helped put business plans together. So like those are things we're going to try to do and figure out, like, how do you move the projects forward quicker, better, faster for everybody, because everybody who's trying to run together is trying to do what you're trying to do here, and if we did it together, we all grow kind of faster.
Yeah, that's
together.
what I'm saying. We all need to come behind a common purpose, and we need to figure out exactly what that purpose is and put a mission statement to it so that we all have a common mission to stand behind. Other than that, we're all just on our own ships going all in our own separate directions, and there's really no common string to tie us together. That's one of the reasons I wanted to come up with this blockchain, is that's kind of the thread that would tie all these existing eco villages, all these ships together into one single armada. Because, I understand everyone has their own focus, their own method of approach that they want to use to fix society. And we all need every single one of those approaches all together, because that's what's going to actually make a big enough change.
That's right. So one of the things that we're starting to think about is, in our business planning, we have what we call advocates. And that's kind of what you're saying right now, is like you're going to have a couple people start new pages, and they're going to be out there sharing, and they're putting in the work, and they're doing that out of the goodness of their heart. They believe in the project. They're doing it because they want to see it succeed. There's truth behind their motive. And at the same time, we're trying to build new economies, so there should also be a form of compensation hopefully attached to that, if all of the hope that we're talking about comes to fruition. The doubloon takes off. You'd like to think that the people who are here now actually still kind of benefit then. But to your point, good luck getting the coin contracts, figuring all of that out in advance. So one of the things we're talking about doing, I just kind of want to run it by you and get your thoughts on it. We're talking about starting to put smart contracts just out on a. We'll probably just put it on BSV because we write for BSV, but it's mostly just an agreement, and we could literally take. So we're talking here, and you're going like, yeah, I'll give whatever to this group of people. We take that little bit of video, we put it on, I don't care what chain, it's time stamped. Then when you need to build your final project, because trying to build these projects is no small feat, right? Trying to get the coin out there, trying to get the blockchain out there, but you get to go back and see all of the things that have been promised in your community and build those into your final project, that when it goes live, it just basically reconciles the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's
that blew my mind. I don't even know what to say.
Okay. It's a big undertaking, but I think it's worthwhile.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And they say the people crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who usually do.
Now and I'll tell you, I love watching you guys. I love that you're like getting so into the theme of the project with the pirates. It's fun, right? But it really is. It's just so revealing of the hearts that are in it. You're like, okay, it's a peaceful project. You just want your autonomy. You want to live life. You want to do good. And you want to do it together on the same ships. I love that.
It's about freedom. I've had people in the beginning like peaceful pirates weren't peaceful. They da 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 da. But if you look into Samuel Bellamy, he was called the Robin Hood of the Seas, and he wouldn't actually physically harm these people. He was kind of an anarchist. He wanted freedom. He didn't want to be controlled by the government. He wanted his little pirate's nest in the Caribbean. And really, it wasn't these men, they originally weren't just these criminal pirates. They were hired as privateers by the British government to attack Spanish treasure ships so as to the government wasn't sitting there attacking the ships themselves. These corporations would hire them as privateers, and when the war stopped, they had no job. They were the government kind of kicked them to the curb. Well, thank you for your service, now fuck off. And they're like, well, screw that, we're going to continue raiding and attacking ships. That's what we know how to do. But think about it. It wasn't poor people sending ships full of gold across the ocean. It was governments, and it was the elite. They weren't sitting here going and robbing the guy at the corner store who's pulling $400 out the ATM. They were taking money from the elite, and they were building their pirate's nest, giving it to their crews, and creating a better lives for themselves. They were.
So where they at? I'll go collect on them.
That's the idea, is that there's plenty of money out there, and the government is, they're handing out these stimuluses. What was it? The elite, the billionaires got $3.9 trillion richer or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, we got $3.8 trillion poorer.
Right.
Some number like that. Like, come on, you know exactly where it's going. They hand out a stimulus and they're like, oh, support local businesses. Well, people can support my local business all they fucking want. I still got to buy my paint and supplies from Home Depot and Dunn Edwards and all these big ass corporations. It doesn't matter if they support me, because where's my money going right back to anyway? And they know that. You can support local all you want unless they're growing all the food on their land with 100% of the inputs they're producing themselves. Your money is still going to a corporation, no matter how much you don't want it to. And they know that when they give us stimuluses. This is just another way to extract money from us, devalue money, and have us give it right back to the corporations they know we're shopping at.
It's an IOU.
Yeah, that's all it is debt. So, the idea is we need to play Robin Hood right now. It doesn't matter how we get the money. We need to get the money. I mean, we're going to do it in a morally acceptable way, of course.
I'm a sometimes peaceful pirate.
We're peaceful most of the time, except when
I'm
we're
trying
defending.
to be peaceful pirate.
Peaceful for the better cause.
Yeah.
Hey, Chuck.
Yeah.
Chuck, I like what you were talking about. Because that was the first time I seen that was with Gary V's NFTs. Like you can, it's like a ticket to his event. So
Yeah,
that has like the value justified why it was like $1,500 per NFT because you get like these perks. Some other things were like
Because I need to
play
talk to him
sports with
about other stuff. But
Gary
I was
or,
supposed to go meet him over there, but then
work out with Gary, but attaching something to an NFT like could be like part of the project. We
exactly.
like you get a half acre of land with the first purchase. There's 10 NFTs. All 10 of them equal the amount total of the land that we're looking at. And then you divide that up between 10, and then you get like X benefits when you're the holder of each NFT.
Yeah, exactly. So we've talked through on our podcast about the idea of private societies, right? And the private society, the easiest way to think about it is like a timeshare, but it's basically that. It's like a whole bunch of people put money into a currency, and then they attach the resources that they have, and those resources could be like your grass cutter for all that, your tractor. It could be your yacht. It could be your beach house. It could be your permaculture. It could be your garden, and you then have rights like when you're buying these NFTs, that's what the NFT really truly is a limited number of people who have access to this quote unquote private society, which is nothing more than a sharing of resources that we already have that we already own and already have in common. So I think that there's a number of ways to set up NFTs right now that are not at all about art, but we can take advantage of the art piece. I have a thing I'm working on called like the Nefarians, and they're just a group of aliens that, of course, they always sound really good, but in the end they're Nefarians. So they're building an economy you can't trust. I started building a little pirate version of that. Why? Because we're talking to you guys. We absolutely can find ways of fundraising that are really fun to get people's attention and then go, hold up, there's more. You actually get once a week, 1 week out of the year that you can go up to the permaculture and stay at the,
Yeah,
the
for
yurt.
lifetime.
Right,
For
yeah,
life.
right.
Yeah, you get this NFT to help us fund the production of our first demonstration plot, and you get lifetime access of a 1 week paid vacation per year where we feed you and everything, where you're part of the community. You
Right.
know, great idea.
52 of those, so you have limited supply. It comes with a little piece of art that's kind of whatever. That's just the little stamp that represents the thing, and
And all of a sudden,
you got
50
$5,000 per NFT.
5,000, yeah. Yep.
So you got
Yeah.
260,000, and now you've got
Yep.
you got to put 150 toward the yurt, and you got 150 toward something else. Do 4 more of those, and you got some funding going.
Shit, we could build a tiny home for probably 10 grand, 15 grand, if that. Shipping container home, like Alan was saying, Doc Woo, if we were to get a shipping container and convert it, even cheaper. Travel trailer. I have a travel trailer right now that I could use. So if we were to have people donate travel trailers, mobile homes, etc., that's
actually,
another thing.
it's actually a market for manufactured homes right now too, because like
Manufactured homes.
it's
Huge
kind of
market.
different from like actually selling an actual house because it's not like you kind of how when you have a trailer you kind of register that with the DMV or like the kind of how you get your car registered.
Yeah.
A manufactured home is kind of like the way you process it, kind of like an RV.
Oh, gotcha.
So like there's way less paperwork involved, and then like with those, it's kind of like in terms of renovation, like one project a friend of mine worked on. I think he actually spent like 20 grand like on renovation, and then he sold the manufactured home for like 120 grand.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was like actually a pretty good return on one of those projects.
See, I've had a few different ideas that once we get the land, there's an endless amount of ways to make money and also educate. So imagine having a series of either tiny homes or um, cob houses that you could use as an Airbnb, and you can
Shit,
get
like
people
I
out
think
there.
I think in that terms, if you do like one or two, like if you do one or two of those projects I just mentioned in terms of like flipping a manufactured home, it's it's pretty much enough for you to purchase land.
Yeah, we got to get enough money to get the manufactured home to flip, but that would add a whole new element to the plan, you know. Then we'd be in the business of buying and flipping homes as well.
And frankly, if you're gonna flip anything, flip a pirate ship.
here's 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 what I'm thinking is, with
Don't
the
sink it.
response that we've gotten thus far, I mean, within the first week of putting our project on Facebook and starting to talk about it and gathering people together, someone already said, I got 10 grand towards it right now. And if you don't think if we grow to 20,000 followers, 50,000 followers, that there's going to be more people like that, that's really where it's at. I mean, us sitting up here genuinely talking about this and giving people a solution. There's so many people out there that want to change the world or want to change their lives. They just don't know what to do or how to get started. Well, here it is. If you help us grow, we're going to give you all the tools you need to be able to do it yourselves.
Okay,
That's
so
the whole idea.
how much money do you need?
The land we saw, me and Ben were looking online. It was 40 acres for 325,000. He's coming out here at the end of the month. We're gonna go up there, and we're gonna go look at land. I mean,
40
we don't
acres,
need.
325. That's actually a pretty good deal.
You
Yeah,
probably, I'm gonna just, let's say rough case. And when you ask like how much do you need for the project, if you're only talking about one permaculture project, you've got your land and all your expenses. But if you're talking about actually trying to, um, let's say, get some money to help the entire project off the line, you've got to plan in some of your, your development, depending how far you want to go towards your, your actual own blockchain in there. But I'm gonna guess that your first number is gonna be around $1 million. Just guessing off the top of my
well,
head.
see here, the thing about that is that when we get the land, part of the growth of the project is going to be showing low cost transition from a normal lifestyle into a permaculture self-sufficient lifestyle. So we're going to be showing people things like seed saving and all sorts of
Oh
low cost
no.
methods, and we're going to film it, we're going to make tutorials, we're going to live stream it, and that's going to grow our numbers and our followers as well. And since we're going to be a nonprofit, we're going to be running fundraisers all the time. I mean, they say as a
Okay.
nonprofit 90% of what you do is fundraising. So we're going to have tons of different fundraising. Once we get the land, we're going to be able to host classes. We'll be able to pull people out for natural building workshops,
And
for
I definitely want to get in on the whole idea. Like, okay, what's it take to get on your radar to develop? Like, what would you have to do to take on the next location? That kind of piece. I think that that'll be a fun step down the road because you're gonna have a lot of people wanting
yeah. And you
to
see
do
the
exactly
development,
what
like
you're doing.
we were talking about last time with the development. If you want to build a cob home, you host a cob building workshop. You charge X amount of money. You charge 10 people $1,500. You got $15,000. You pay the cob building teacher $5,000. You have them all stomp out the sand, clay, and straw. You spend the rest of the money on your wood and your other building materials you need, and boom, you got a cob home. So it's not like you really need that money up front if you're using the land and the permaculture courses and everything for what they're for. A lot of people, it's not like you're taking their money either. People are paying for a course. They're paying to stay on your land for a week. You're feeding them food that you've grown on the land. At Quail Springs, when I took my course, they were feeding us all food they grew, and they also had 50-gallon drums full of dried beans and dried quinoa and rice and all that. And so they just fed us all that food. There was barely any expense on their part. So it was all money that came in. We didn't care because we were getting taught. And also they have apprentices on land that they'll charge, let's say, $3,500. That person will come be an apprentice on their land for 2 to 3 months, and they'll
If
learn
you have
every.
those people, I'll go live on their land and actually learn from them. Actually,
You
I'm
can do
down.
that at Quail Springs. They do that. You can. The apprenticeship program was like 3,500 back when I was doing the course in 2012. Maybe it's like $5,000 nowadays. I haven't looked, But the fact is, they have people that they'll charge them money and they'll go live there for 3 months, and they'll be doing things like gathering eggs and building natural homes and chopping wood and making cob. It's awesome. So there's all sorts of ways to make money once you're already actually in the system with the land with the demonstration plot. And also, I was saying, I live 3 hours away. So what I'm going to do is keep working my painting business, and I can come back for a couple weeks, make a few grand, and boom, put it right back into the land. I'm all into this to where I'm putting, once I have the land, what do you think I'm going to be investing into? So, we're going to build it small. We're going to start small and expand, because that's one of the permaculture principles. We don't want to jump in and get overwhelmed. We want to make sure that each part of the permaculture is going to be working, and then move on to the next part.
Yeah, give me a business plan, like the actual specific piece of land that you're looking at, and in terms of how much, and all that on paper, so I can actually talk to investors about it. I know people
Okay.
out there.
Okay, well, me and Ben will, when Ben comes out here, me, Ben, and Andy will be all together, and then we'll probably call up Felicia. She lives
Yeah,
in Oregon.
maybe y'all can take a trip to Houston and visit.
When are you coming out here next? When are you coming out this way next?
I might be going out of the country next.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, yeah.
Yeah, well, basically, like I was saying, the idea is, if we don't want to be the head honchos of this thing, we want to give people the skills that they need to be able to do it on their own. So
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm down for.
so after we get the land, so we'll make our business plan, and we'll try to get all the numbers together. But after we get the land, it's about live streaming and making tutorials to make it as simple as possible.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because that doesn't exist right now. There's a bunch of permaculture videos out there. There's a bunch of people doing permacultures, but there's really no like how to step one, like, here. You wanna help change the world? Here you go. Here's the process. Or at least you want to free your family from 9-to-5 slavery and corporate servitude.
I'm trying to free a friend too, brothers like that.
I'm trying to free humanity from those chains.
I'm trying to start with these few brothers of mine.
Yeah.
Gotta start somewhere.
It starts with us, and it starts with the people around us that are interested in it. Because if we're all working together, part of the power is going to be with the numbers. I mean, all of the power is going to be in the numbers, because as we get more people involved, all the roles are going to be more spread. There's doctors and dentists without borders that already go overseas to help people in third world countries for free. Why wouldn't some of those type of doctors and dentists join our cause? Why wouldn't they want to see our cause grow? Why wouldn't there be people of all types, lawyers and masseuses and everybody of all type? This isn't just a movement that's one type of person. And everybody else, like all the movements, can all be part of the same movement. There's people interested in watershed restoration. There's people interested in restoring the oceans, or doing this or doing that. And it's all part of the same exact thing. Earth stewardship. Really, that's what at the bottom line. We need to all come together and steward and foster a better future for humanity.
Well, I don't know that it could be said any better than that. And hey, we're going to have to jump back off, but I think that's it. It's Earth stewardship and steward a better humanity forward. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey,
man.
thanks for letting us jump in again tonight, and hopefully we'll just keep this moving.
Yeah, definitely. Every Thursday. I think we should make this every Thursday. We'll have our meeting start at 5 p.m. West, and you guys could jump on with us at 6 p.m., which would be what, 9 your time?
Yep, and that's fine. Yeah, we're actually just playing around with some timing right now, so that'll work out perfect.
Okay, cool. So let's make it a date, 6 p.m.
All right.
Awesome, guys.
Thank you, guys.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Go over to the one.
Yeah,
go
good
on.
chat. You guys have a good night.
You too.
I dig those guys' input.
All right. I have to use the bathroom again.
I'm gonna go to break then.
Yeah, there we go. Turn that off.
do this. There we go. I can circumvent it.
Okay,
We're back.
and we're back. We're back for our closing segment.
For our closing segment. So that was actually a lot of fun. Pirates, conversation with Greg.
Yeah, that's cool. That was so. Now the big thing is like, how do we continue this?
Yeah.
That's gonna be a harder
Well,
thing.
next week you're here. You're here through next week,
yeah,
right?
do
So
next
we
week
can
this
do
way
this.
again.
It'll be more fun next week
Yeah, we'll
because
have it
we
set
can
up a
like
little
really,
more.
yeah,
Yeah.
We'll be on time next week. So, you know,
And that actually the time thing is like, are we gonna just start going 7 to 10? Because if these guys are gonna be at 9, and I like the idea of coming in with these guys at 9, and I could see
Spending an
spending
hour
an hour with them, you know,
Yep.
basically, and we'll just work it out with them that we sort of transition the last half hour or something to maybe some way of opening up
Collabing.
something
Yeah.
more or something.
maybe walking through. Oh, I wonder if they would be open as like to go exploring the
Planet.
culture process or the planet process.
Yeah, maybe we could do Planet. Yeah, that would be kind of fun. That would be an interesting thing. Like we could
Yeah.
actually just kind of live stream their planning. So that's
Yeah.
cool.
That'd be cool.
All right, so this thing that we're going to close with tonight is just basically we were throwing some ideas out about some fun little intros, and this one made it out for about 2 minutes and then was taken down. It's probably the only time you're ever going to see it, or maybe not. Maybe we'll reuse it.
So either we're going to be able to keep this video on YouTube and on Facebook, or we're going to get flagged and we're going to have to take this video down.
Oh, wait, that's a good point.
So do we want to play this? Or, because quite honestly, we're at the end of the night, we could actually sign out. And
Yeah, but then the entire video is likely to be taken down, which would be all of the content tonight.
So I've got it all recorded. So I could just upload it to the
It's true.
platforms.
It's true. Let's just throw caution to the wind.
So
And-
we actually do have legitimate, provable
Rights to
use this video, this
The
song.
song. For our
flag
that we've played
we'll
before.
play the flag video. So that way, just in case there's any question as to
Fair enough.
So
Fair enough.
We had Chuck. So Chuck has a promo video that he did, kind of fun one.
I think we can play it. I don't think
Yeah.
Mike would care.
Mike probably wouldn't care.
I mean, he gets the fact that we're trying to promote something that he's
and
project
it's
on.
including him, and
and
wait,
it's referenced
so-
in the thing.
just to be clear, Mike Goodspeed is the composer of this music that we're using right now. He wanted us to wait to use it until after he did the official record release or record drop, as he called it.
Which is
Mike
done.
is a
And we know that because
Yep.
Facebook earlier said, "Hey, do you have
Yep.
the rights to use this?" And yeah,
Yeah.
we do.
Yep.
So it's all the technology's working there.
Yep. So, so that's hopefully we can get that all resolved and not to worry about this because this is all part of our.
Now, okay, so have a little fun at kind of explaining this. So one time we were doing when we were early on, started
what was
all of
David?
this. Yeah, we were
jeez,
we were
that's
early
right.
on doing some streaming at a local restaurant. No, it wasn't David's. It
No.
was they had music on in the background.
That's what it was.
But
Yeah,
we
yeah,
had
yeah.
people like talking like this, and they picked up the music in the background, and we got flagged for it. And okay, fair enough.
We got
didn't.
flagged a couple times.
Well, then
right?
I think we got flagged one other time when it was we actually did the a residency series. We live streamed a residency series for
Yeah,
David
David.
Michael Miller, and we
Yeah.
had some of his stuff. And at one point in time, it was like, "Do you have the rights to use?" I'm like, "Well, that's interesting."
Yeah.
Right, because it was actually,
Yep.
and fair enough,
Yeah.
because quite frankly, like this is what we're trying to solve, right? It's
Yep.
like who are the rights, who gets what are protecting those rights, and obviously a big reason we're going to blockchain and
Yes.
trying to fix
Yeah.
those situations so that you
Right.
have proper use, but trying to keep track of all of that via media today, and just having radio in the background sort of gets
Yep.
interesting.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
All right,
you
so
can't
we'll
have
have,
anything. In
all right,
this
so
one.
actually, what we can do.
So we're gonna go with the other one, the other video then.
Okay, yeah, we'll go. No, well, no, we'll go with this one. We'll go with this one, and we'll have some fun,
okay.
kind of, because
All right.
because this is the question of the night. This is the question of the night.
All right. Now, will we get cut off at this point? And so, if so, we ended the video at this point, and good night. But officially, let's find out if we make it to the.
And we got to do one more time of just stopping this, because I'm starting to feel like we're completely dragging this just for the sake of dragging it.
Promo. Oh, by the way, this was for 7 o'clock. Don't mind the time. Let's see how it works. We can't hear it. It's playing. You can see it. Fix that.
So anyways, that was the promo to tell you to watch tonight.
Yeah. So hopefully it doesn't just destroy everything on Facebook and YouTube. But
so the question there, though, that is being asked by our infamous Ulysses there is, am I ready for launch? Are we ready for launch? And I guess so. What we're trying to decide is that we've got one more week. And we're supposed to be planting our flag, and we've talked a number of times about what planting the flag is, and we're always the Cobbler's Kids has no shoes because none of it's written down. We could go back and watch all the video, but we're not going to. And we have to decide, what did we want to accomplish when we said we're planting our flag? So before we watch it, what did we want to accomplish, and where do we stand, and are we ready to launch?
So it all stemmed from the initial concept of planting our first flag on the blockchain when I was talking to Brian, and he said, you just kind of want to get out there and plant your first flag. And so in a lot of ways, because we do things the way we do things, I thought we have to overdo it. So I reached out to, Chuck, who I knew would also want to overdo it. And so hence we
it's
created...
always harder to do it the hard way and not the easy.
Yeah. But we go big or go home, quite honestly. But even at this age,
big, but hey.
So it started out as like this concept video that Chuck was working on, and there was really there was no music to it even at that point. And you were, I think at the point, you were actually using Jesse's music.
I was working on some for not for
this.
our planting the flag. I think it was for some of the media stuff, but yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So then we decided we're going to plant this flag. What did we like? I remember we talked about. Okay, so during all of this was also when we were exploring blockchain and trying to understand it, and we had our umps and our me's, and we're still. Have we decided?
Yeah,
I
still got them. Actually, I've got code that represents them.
Okay,
not done, but it's there.
Right, so. And that's got it. Now we actually do have to have our protocol, though.
Not for the initial, no.
Why is that?
Just because the way we're writing the transaction.
Okay.
So
basically that one. Okay, we wanted to kind of make sure that we had in this transaction sort of what we felt we needed, and we don't really know what any of that is, but we know what we kind of wanted to recognize Mike for his role as composer, producer. Then we wanted to have some of the other roles, which I don't think we've completely defined what those are, but okay.
Yeah, I think we actually had 3 of us that would be like a multi-sig transaction, multi-signature.
It's not even. It's interesting. We did want it multi-sig, so I'm gonna say that that's a different feature, right? We wanted to like more or less the roles, so we know that like if this thing got sold, how to compensate Mike, and these other things. So we were going to kind of do something like that, and the multi-sig was just so that you and I both were required to actually plant it.
Right.
Something like that.
Yep.
So like if we think about this, that we have now this NFT, and we're thinking we're going to store it on IPFS. We're going to create a transaction which points to IPFS, and we're talking about dual signatures to get it minted, and the roles. And what do we want on the roles? Like,
Well,
I don't think we've talked
the
about
roles,
that.
Yeah, the roles we
Too
really
deep, too much.
The roles I think we kind of initially even said that that's probably going a little bit further than we want to or needed to in the initial launch of the flag. The initial launch of the flag is simply just to be able to write a transaction, show we can write a transaction, show the transaction, show how it relates back to our system and how we utilize it in our platform.
So we could actually then do the roles though in the system.
Yeah,
so we could
start with
actually
the-
do something like that. That
Yeah.
it actually is in the NFT will point to the roles.
Yeah.
Right. So that'll actually demonstrate the hybrid nature also.
Yeah, I'm wondering though, and this may be going too far in this part here, but mediation agreements comes into play all in this realm as well. So I think that there's some more conversation that you and I need to have and
Okay. So with that, we're gonna see what it is we're trying to plant, and then we'll see if it gets launched
So you want to play the video
next week.
You want to play the other video?
Yeah, it's gonna be like live and getting launched, I guess.
Yeah.
If
Well,
that's-
if everything goes well, I mean, right now I seem to be feeling, I would say feeling fairly confident, but there's always those last minute things, and of course I went over the top a little bit too with what I'm pulling together, trying to build in the chain stories on top of all this. So, it's all part of the platform. It's all what we do, and I think it's going to present well. So we want to do a little bit of live production, so you need to fill.
Oh, I'm filling. Which when I'm sitting here like this, my eyes roaming and I'm pondering what's being said. That's not fill, because fill is when I'm actually like taking this what would otherwise be dead air, where Tim's getting really nervous because he's over there trying to do something and it's taking longer than he wants it to take, so he gets really nervous and he says fill. That's where I just have to begin talking about things so that there's not the dead air. So if you will, what you've just experienced was fill, which is in no relationship to Lou, or maybe has a relationship to Lou. And who is Lou? But well, that's the legend of Ulysses. So there's not necessarily a Lou either, but there is a legend of the Ulysses, and that has to do with some sort of an LLC or otherwise soon to be created in Wyoming. And if you've ever wondered if somebody with ADHD can just sit there and talk at the same speed of the thoughts that come to their head, I would absolutely say probably. It's very possible that such a thing is possible. And it looks at this point like I've got the thumbs up. So the fill is ending.
Over.
And
Here
this,
we go.
this, for the third time ever, for the public's viewing, is our flag that we will plant to the blockchain.
Now I can see
So there you go.
Not only did we play it one time, we played it two times.
But
So-
we talked over it.
Yeah.
So, like, not for anything. So
It's
that's
kind
an
of like a
interest-
reaction video.
So here's an interesting thing, right? So let's say that, like, I actually had rights to music like that, right? But I wanted to come up here and actually, like, do some sort of rap. I wanted to come up here and, like, sing over top of it. I wonder, would they still then
they actually still tag you because
Right, but then it's an action. It's an there's some term for that where you add on to a creative work, which is interesting.
The reactors that do so. If you've ever watched reaction videos on YouTube, what they'll do is they'll pause it at certain increments throughout the video, so that way they get to it. They have a certain amount that they're allotted before they have to pause it and disrupt it.
Okay,
So it
that's
doesn't
interesting.
become like an official playback of it or something. So, yeah.
So we'll
But
see what happens.
anyways.
Maybe we'll get flagged. Maybe we
Yeah.
won't get flagged. And
Mike,
You know?
if we get flagged, we're calling you.
ready for launch. Ready for launch. We'll see.
That could actually hold us up a little bit.
We'll see.
But-
Well, that wouldn't hold us up at all.
Well, true.
That has no-
They have that. Well, if we can't play it anywhere,
What do you mean if we can't? We're
Well,
going to be storing it on IPFS. You could play it through any media player.
true.
It's just
True.
they
That's
wouldn't
true. Yeah.
distribute it through.
Okay, yeah, that's true. We just have to download it from IPFS and play it. Well, what if we can't play it on stream ever? That just stinks. We wouldn't be able to put it on stream. Anyways, have a good night.
We're going to create problems where they're not. We're going to do things harder where we can. And with that, good night.
All right, now watch this. So, uh-oh. I'm stopping it. Oh, crap. I did the wrong one. And I hit end. And it's
Oh.
ending
Without the fade out.
without the fade out.
Unbelievable.
Yep, see, I messed up.